Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pretty Good Podcast 9.
Hell yeah.
Hey, boys, how we doing today?
Oof.
Oof.
By oof, I mean pretty good.
I think it's some dirty sheets after this, I'm thinking.
Ooh.
Like the
nice.
restaurant sheets, or just making some dirty sheets after?
Hey, don't be a sicko, okay?
What am
He's
I?
talking about the restaurant.
What am I doing?
Restaurant might be a generous term for that establishment, but yeah.
Hey, everyone, I'm your host, Lucas, joined by everyone. Go down the line here.
Craig Taylor.
Matt Davis.
Hey. All right, boys.
I'm wearing the Bobby Boucher jersey
That
today.
is from the White Elephant Party.
Yeah. I'm ready for the bourbon bowl.
I think I told this story last time too, how I purchased that and I was like, man, I'm gonna buy this gift and whoever gets it is gonna be like, oh, it's a Bobby Boucher jersey. And then it came in and it's actually pretty high quality too, for like
It is. It legitimately is like high quality. I had like worse bootleg like Steelers jerseys than this, so.
Spoiler, I paid like $25 for that.
Yeah.
And it came in and I was just like, man, this thing's pretty
The
sweet.
number is stitched.
Yeah. I was like, I kind of want to keep this.
It's nice.
So I decided, since you have the Water Boy one and I can't just order that for myself now, I am going to get the Thad Castle jersey from Blue Mountain State.
Did you see they're doing I don't know if you know about this, but Jack Reacher. Do you know about the Jack Reacher
I didn't
books?
hear anything about it.
Okay. So there's a series of books called like the Jack Reacher novels. And Jack Reacher is like this 7-foot tall former Marine cop or whatever, Navy cop. I'm sorry, I haven't read them, so don't crucify me in the comments or whatever. But you can Google. He's huge and he's muscular and he's a detective and he goes and investigates like crimes off the book. Like he lives off the record. You know, he doesn't have a house. Off the grid is what I meant to say. Off the record. He lives off the grid and he just travels around and solves like cases, right? Like to deal with veterans or whatever. And they made a movie. I think they made two, but they made two movies where Tom Cruise plays Jack Reacher.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen the movie. I've never watched them, but I've definitely seen the movie.
So a lot of people hated it because like out the gate, a lot of fans were upset because Jack Reacher's one of his whole gimmicks is that he's like a freaking mountain of a man, and they got like, 5'9" Tom Cruise.
Is that what he is? Is he 5'9"?
I just made that number up. I just know he's under 6 feet, which hey, no hate. I don't know if I want to admit this on the internet, but I'm under 6 feet.
All right, he's 5'7", which
That's short.
yeah,
That's like my mom.
What's the average, like 5'10" for men?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't all be 6'3".
Yeah, you guys are both taller than me, but so I'm not hating on my short kings. What I'm saying is people were upset that a shorter guy got cast as this huge guy. That first Jack Reacher movie actually is not bad. It's not bad in my opinion. But anyways, they have rebooted it as a show now on, I think, Amazon Prime, I want to say. And
One of the 30 streaming services.
To bring us around full circle, Thad Castle is playing
Alan Richton.
He's playing Jack Reacher.
Yeah. I love Alan Richton.
I saw him and he's playing it all serious in the trailer. Like he's a serious character. He's like, he walks into a bar and they're like, "Who are you, stranger? Why'd you roll into town?" He's like, "You want to find out?" Yeah. And I'm like,
he is
all
like
I'm seeing is
a god
that.
physique of a man also.
Yeah, he's much more physically like built to the Jack Reacher character. I just thought that was funny. So
He was in the Hunger Games also. One of the latter episodes.
I suppose he was.
Yeah, he was on like one of the opposing teams whenever they did like that big tournament thing.
I saw the first two and like half of Mockingjay because we showed up late to the theater.
I rewatched them probably like a year ago, and I did that moment. I was like, "Oh, it's Alan."
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you have never watched Blue Mountain State. One day I'll get you to watch that show. It is another. I think it was Spike
You've
TV.
had me. I've watched the movie with you, the
I love
Rise
the
of
movie.
Thad.
Yeah,
whatever.
Thadland.
Thadland. Yeah.
He plays a really funny character in that. But we got some big news that's happened this week. Microsoft buying up everything.
Yeah.
They bought
Blizzard.
Activision. They recently before bought Bethesda and what's their parent company? ZeniMax. They bought them. So, do you think there's any like end game for them? Are they trying to create like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or
Well, so I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, I have an opinion, but I've been talking for a little bit, so I want to
So
go.
I think that if it was any other company, it might be concerning. And I see people just have general like concerns about like a monopoly. But the thing with Microsoft is they have a very good track record. There aren't really any allegations of abuse at their studios like at Activision Blizzard.
yeah.
I know that there's some question as to whether or not Microsoft is adopting this and if they were looking to sell because of this. And there's a lot of different moving pieces. Every day I see a new rumor like, here's why they sold. Here's what Bobby Kotick's going to do. But I think ultimately it's good for the people that work there, which is important. It's good for people that are interested in just games because like Xbox is such a pioneer in terms of like Game Pass and trying to break the mold in terms of what success is with video game companies. I think it's something that's going to be beneficial for people who work there, people that play games, and I think most people I think that are really like upset about this are people bitching that only want to play on PlayStation.
$70 billion this deal was. Okay, here's my point I want to get across.
Hey,
the people bitching.
One day, mark my verbs, we're going to have that in Dr. Squatch sponsorships.
Yeah.
The people bitching like are just saying like, oh, PlayStation's dead. PlayStation's dead. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, PlayStation has
think it is.
plenty of their own IPs that they've built up, and I think the worst case scenario for us would be is if Sony started trying to buy game companies and there just became this like dick measuring contest of who can buy up more companies. I think that would kind of eliminate a lot of these like, you know, Tormented Souls that I recently played, The Outer Worlds, some of the games. Outer Worlds might have been by a bigger company, but it might eliminate like more indie type games or small developers.
Yeah.
Well, I think the difference is,
Outer Worlds is Obsidian, which
Yeah,
I think
I
is
did
a
remember that.
I think it's a second party.
second to like Bethesda.
Yeah, it's
something.
owned by ZeniMax. I remember
So
that
now
after I said it.
Microsoft owns it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They own.
But Microsoft, they take risks on, like, I could see them funding games and supporting games that are smaller like that. And a big problem with Activision Blizzard is that every and EA is kind of like this too. Every game has to be an annual franchise. Every game has to be a Call of Duty. So you had issues like Call of Duty. Everyone's like, why don't they just focus on Warzone and come out with a new COD every 2 or 3 years?
If
And
they broke
Xbox can do that.
If they broke this
Yeah.
annual thing, it might benefit the games themselves.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that you can no longer turn out those huge AAA games in a year without it being really busted up? Like,
There's a huge debate on that because you look at games like Red Dead or GTA 6. There's games that are like The Elder Scrolls 6 that have been in development for like 10 years, and they're saying, "Oh, this is the average like length that it takes to create a AAA game."
the problem now that I see just from the outside looking, at the games is that what makes a AAA game now is so much more than what it used to be, and it's really hard to make it in
Look
a
at
year's
Cyberpunk,
time.
how hard that flopped. I honestly
How
didn't.
much shit employees get put through to make those games,
Yeah.
and then they churn out something like the latest Battlefield. I look at like the latest Battlefield game, how broken and fucked up that is. It's dead on launch, basically. Like, that game arrived and the reviews came in so bad because the game is unplayable. And I just think, like, at what point do we stop accepting like that happening?
Well,
You
the
know?
biggest
Like-
problem is like you can't come out with a game because games take about like 3-4 years, assuming everything goes well, to make, and you can't make a really like big budget game like that without some type of exploitation, and that's just the state it's in right now. And the case with a lot of these games like Cyberpunk and Battlefield is the number one cause of games that turn out like that are publishers. People, like, if you hear someone online saying like developers are lazy, don't listen to anything they say about video games because they have no idea how they're made. It's like these are all caused by publishers who put pressure on these devs to release stuff before they're ready. Most devs are overworked. They've been crunching for like 6 fucking months in these horrible like conditions. And it's publishers that put the pressure saying, hey, we need this for our fiscal year to look good. So you need to put this out. And then it's developers who get shat on Twitter. Like these idiots, these dumb little kids don't think about like the publishers who actually make these decisions. And so, yeah, it's a mix of like these expectations of publishers just wanting every game to be a Call of Duty. All that stuff infects game design, and it's just bad for everybody except these publishers. So Microsoft being, I think, a good publisher that is willing to give games time. We look at Infinite and how fucked up Infinite was. They gave that game time to develop, and I think it was about as good as it could have been. You know, I think it's a good thing ultimately. So
I got the genuine question for you boys. Do you think Sony's in trouble at all? I say no.
So I'll answer that with my thoughts on this merger here. I am looking at it from a broad perspective of, I'm going to use this term, the console wars. You remember the console wars?
Yeah, the South Park ended it.
Well, it was always between Xbox and PlayStation, and Nintendo's always kind of doing
it's like
own.
a niche thing. You know,
Nintendo's always doing its own
route.
thing. Yeah. I never feel like they're truly in that much of a competition with those other two because they just provide different kinds of games. But I think it's pretty clear that the 360 and the PS3 era, to me, it's pretty clear that the 360 dominated that era and had all of the big exclusive games. I remember joking about it at one point with someone and being like, oh yeah, you get your Xbox, you can get Gears, you can get Halo, you can get this or that, and then thinking, or you can get PlayStation and get Little Big Planet, you know, which I'm sure is a fun game. I just was pointing that out. And this previous generation, Xbox One versus PS4, I think it swung hard the other way, where the PS4 really kicked the shit out of the Xbox One, I think, in terms of being just a better console and having, there was this huge thing about how many exclusive games there were for the PS4, especially toward the end of the tenure, where Xbox just had nothing. It was like Sony's got God of War. Was The Last of Us an exclusive?
Yeah, that's developed by
you know,
Sony.
it had like God of War, The Last of Us 2, which I know is controversial, but it's still a big title.
Uncharted was big too.
The Amazing Spider-Man game, Uncharted, like
Ratchet and Clank.
these huge games that were coming out for PS4, and then Xbox, it was like Gears of War 5,
Halo.
well, not even a new
Yeah,
Halo.
I guess, did they have any on the one?
They did. It was Halo 5, the worst one. Same with Gears of War 5. It's like there's the worst one. And so Xbox looks like this old fumbling thing of like, remember Gears of War? You know, this game was fun a couple games ago. And
they did excel very well on bringing back like old games much more than PlayStation has.
that's like what they became all about. That's what Xbox is. All of their announcements were about. Here's all our backward compatible. Here's all the old games you like to play. You can play them again.
Which is fine.
And
I'm one for nostalgia myself, big time.
I love going back and playing
Yeah.
that stuff. But what I'm saying is, for these new games, I think for this new generation of consoles, PS5, Xbox One X, or Xbox Series X, terrible naming, by the way. Who we've talked about that already.
I
on
do
this
favor
podcast.
the PlayStations where it's just what's after 4?
5.
5?
Yeah. What is it? I made this comment on a previous Pretty Good where I said they should give $1 million frickin' dollars to the guy who was sitting there in the boardroom, and they were like, "What do you think we should name the second console? How about the PS2?"
yeah,
You know, all I wanted to close out in saying is, with this new generation, I think it's pretty clear Microsoft realizes they lost that race in the last one, and I think they are dumping money into get exclusives. And if they can't create an exclusive from scratch, they're going to buy up.
That's what I kept saying. They're just buying exclusive. What's interesting to me is those systems have been out for a little over a year now. And the PlayStation 5, I just pulled up a current graph as of like, this was November 21. The PlayStation 5 is outselling the Xbox Series X by a significant margin. So do you think this was like Xbox was like, we don't want to lose this generation too. Yeah. We need to.
Xbox has done some interesting crossover stuff with PC.
Don't they have more money than Sony too, which is crazy?
Well, there's a few things. Like, one, to address your point about the sales, I think it's tough to really judge these metrics until you can walk into a Walmart and buy these consoles, because they're both impossible to get, and you're really looking almost at like how fast can they make these, because they're immediately selling out. So I do think that those are probably accurate, that the PlayStations are selling out faster. PlayStation 5's viewed as just like a cooler than like a Series X. You're more likely to get mugged in a Facebook Marketplace transaction over a PS5 than a Series X. But
I will say I do personally feel like the PlayStation 5 is a bigger step up than the Xbox Series X was, where it just kind of, it seemed like the Xbox used a lot of the same set. It just feels like an upgraded version of your system you already had.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few things too. I guess to answer your previous question, I don't think there's anything. PlayStation's probably not panicking right now.
No, I don't.
And
think so.
Because I think PlayStation offers a different type of experience. Like a lot of these exclusives, there's a real cinematic quality to all of them that really isn't present with Xbox. Like if you look at The Last of Us, Uncharted, even Ratchet and Clank is almost like an animated movie. These are viewed as these super, and Spider-Man especially, viewed as almost like playable like movies, and how like visceral they are. It's tough to tell, but you know what I mean, where they're almost like there's a cinematic quality to all these games. But with Xbox, I think the reason I disagree with that, their strategy is just to buy these other companies that have these exclusives, is because they really are changing what their measure of success is. If you look at like Game Pass, like this idea, this ecosystem where all of their first party games are playable on day one with Game Pass, you can't look at games sold, and then you have to totally change how you view success in those metrics. So really, it's really tough to compare when you have like a brand new paradigm with Game Pass and you are just measuring different things.
Game Pass rules, by the way.
It is a hell of a service, and Sony is trying to come out. They said that they're going to do like a Game Pass similar. They had the PlayStation Now, but that's usually for older games. Game Pass is like a beast.
We're not sponsored by Game Pass or anything. We should be, but
I wish.
Game Pass is straight up like great. You convinced me to get it, Craig, and I've loved it ever since I got it, because it really is like you can play these games day one.
You would never play otherwise.
Day one they come out, where like I just remember what was that game that just came out, the zombie game that was Left 4 Dead?
Back 4 Blood.
Back 4 Blood. And because if we kept getting it confused with Deadliest Warrior. So Back 4 Blood came out, and there was a game I would never have spent $60 on, because I'm
probably still wouldn't.
I'm like, this game screams, I've played it before, and me and my friends are going to play it for like 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't want to spend $60 on it. But the fact that I could just download it and play it and get to have a number of great sessions playing it with you guys, and then when it was over, it was over. And I didn't feel like this buyer's remorse of like, well, no, I spent this money on this game. And it's like, nope. It can sit there on my hard drive, or I can get rid of it and download it again. Like, it doesn't matter. And
that was my biggest thing with PlayStation 5 when I got it, as I was like, I have to buy all these games so I want to play them. Like, PlayStation Now has some solid games. I was surprised. Oh, it's cool this is on here. But in terms of like new stuff, you're not going to find anything that was released in the past like 2 years, I'm pretty sure, PlayStation Now. And people, I think, don't understand like that value, because this was not something that was ever like feasible. So if you compare these games, people just look at the exclusives, or they look at like the teraflops as to what's better. But like the Xbox ecosystem of, hey, you don't have to pay another $10 for a fucking upgrade. Like PlayStation, all their games are $70 for the PS5 version, or $10 more. You just get the Xbox version, and it plays whatever is best for that. Way more consumer friendly. And I think it's almost like intangible, that difference. And it's so people aren't talking about, and why you can't just look at like console numbers and exclusives.
Both systems have been nailing lately, is especially on PlayStation 5 where I don't have the Game Pass. They've been doing sales up to like 85% off like AAA games.
Oh yeah.
And I've been building like backlog in a bunch of games.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've always wanted to play
You're turning into
on
Craig.
PlayStation. Yeah.
You're turning into Craig with
Xbox
Steam.
and PlayStation.
Oh yeah, well, I'm bad with all those things.
They've been
but
doing some kick-ass sales lately. Like I have like 5 or 6 AAA PlayStation games that I've been like, I've always wanted to play this, but it's like marked down to like $3. I'm like, I can't afford not to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime I talk to Craig, he's like, "Oh yeah, I have that game on Steam. I haven't played it yet." So I think Craig just has like 200 games on.
Because if it's $3, you have to get it.
That's
Like, you
where
don't
I've
have a
been
choice.
at. Yeah, I don't know if you've been on the PlayStation Store or not. They did this like holiday and New Year's sale where games were up to like 85% off.
Well, so the big problem with that is a lot of those games are either on Game Pass or they're also on sale on Xbox. But my main problem is you have games like Ratchet and Clank and like Returnal, which like obviously those are big PS5 games, but it's like, oh, these are on sale for $55.
Yeah,
it's like, fuck you. Like, you know, so that is annoying. Any game that you really want to play that's new, it's
I just
not-
want to throw this out there for anybody looking for a good meme. We keep saying the word Xbox, and it keeps reminding me of that friggin' Usher video. Where Happy Easter Xbox.
Happy Easter, Xbox.
You know you can order a pizza with your Connect.
Pizzatron. Dude, when you're editing this video, Lucas, please, it's like a 3-second clip. Edit in the Usher saying, Happy Easter Xbox. If you search that, it'll pull right up.
You'll know if I found it because it'll be right here.
Happy Easter, Xbox.
It's one of my favorite videos.
Craig, for a recent birthday you sent to a chat, it was an edit of that video, and it was Usher going, happy, and then it was like, I swear, when he says birthday in a song or something, and he's like,
Happy birthday, Xbox.
yeah, that's what it was.
Do you guys remember it was like big time? It was the whenever
Rush.
No.
It's the only life you got. So sorry.
Whatever
Big
Call of Duty. What the fuck was that? Was that Call of Duty Advanced Warfare Xbox One?
Copy that. I was trying to find that GIF at work to send somebody, and I couldn't find
it's
it.
EB Games, I think.
Yeah.
And it's so the worst acting ever. And the guys pull up to go get their new Call of Duty, and they're running to the door. They get in, and he goes, "Whoa, hey guys, welcome to EB Games."
Whoa, hey guys, welcome to EB Games. Let me guess.
Call of Duty. Advanced Warfare. Xbox One.
Copy that.
There are so many edits of that. And I remember you found like a whole compilation where he's like the dinosaur.
He's
Jurassic
the dinosaur in
Park.
Jurassic Park, and he's like, "Hey guys, welcome to EB Games," and it's like the brontosaur in the beginning, and everyone's
Whoa.
like,
He goes,
Whoa.
copy that.
Hey
"Copy
guys,
that."
welcome to EB Games. And I love the way those guys deliver it too. It's like the worst acting. They're like, Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, and then
Xbox One.
Then they look at each other and go, Xbox One.
When's the last time you were at a GameStop?
I like that the director, I will answer that question in a second. I like that the director took that take and was like, fuck it, good enough.
Yeah.
They probably got someone who's not a director and like made him do that for free. He's probably an intern, and they're like, you got to direct this commercial. And so he was like, you know what? Fuck you guys.
I got
I'm
a
going to
follow-up
take the
question.
first take on everything.
I got a follow-up question, my own question. When's the last time you were at a GameStop? When's the last time you had a good experience at a GameStop?
I was actually at a GameStop yesterday. And I've said this for years.
Did you have a good experience?
Well, I was killing time because I was waiting for I got my haircut and I was waiting for my ride. So I was like, I'll go in GameStop.
Well, there's my ride.
Yeah. So I had no plans to buy anything, but like digital storefronts like Xbox and stuff, Marketplace, PlayStation Store have ruined the experience of going into a GameStop or a Best Buy. Because I remember as a kid going to see like, oh, I'm going to go in the game section, Mom. I'm going to go into Best Buy. You get the Best Buy smell and you see I'm like, oh, they got Lego Star Wars 2. And then, you get to do like this digging for this game that you've never played. And it's like everything with GameStop, it's like, oh, I can get this for way cheaper. I can get this on Game Pass. And it just ruins that. And it's like, okay, I could buy a Funko Pop.
Right.
The toy section.
Did you guys ever have that moment when you were a kid where you didn't have any game in mind, but you like convinced your mom, like, can I get a game for like, if I can find one for $15, and you're frantically looking through like the discount section for like a game that looks
some
okay.
of the most hidden gems that way too.
Hot Wheels Stunt Track Challenge. That was one of the games I was like, Mom, can I just get a game like $10, please?
Yeah.
And then I picked out Hot Wheels Stunt Track Challenge. One of the best racing games I've ever played. You guys know I like racing games. I know no one else cares about them. No, that was like one of the best racing games ever.
Well,
I had that experience, I think, with Dead Rising. I played randomly. I think my mom.
Terrence Rotolo.
Yeah. Hey, another rule. But yeah, and that was a game that I had no relationship with, and it ended up being one of my favorite games ever. So, yeah, that you can't only do that anymore because what's the point? You can get them all for cheaper or on Game Pass.
Yeah, I will say I am a bitch for having physical copies of everything still. And
I gave up on that fucking long time ago.
if I can get it for like the same price around, I will go to the store and still buy the physical copy. I like having it for some reason.
I respect that. I literally have converted to the Church of Digital though in the past like couple years. You know, I'm not opposed to seeing a physical game and just picking it up, but every new game now, it's like I'm day one, I've already purchased it. If I want to buy it, I can download it, especially now with Game Pass. I don't even need to buy it. It's just like there. I download it. And
I will say, I'll correct what I said. If it's like an older game that it's like on sale for like $10, like I buy the digital, blah, blah, blah. But if it's a brand new game, like a new one comes out, I will like just do like the Best Buy and go pick up the physical. Like I feel like if I have a new game and I'm spending that much, I need to like physically have it in my hands or something.
Yeah, I think so. I used to. It's nice to see your physical library grow.
Yeah.
But now I'm at the point where it's like, oh, look how many games I have digitally, and I can install them anywhere. I don't have to carry them, and like that's such a big plus.
That's how I got is like, I have so many freaking PS2 and 360 games that I don't play anymore. I'm not gonna. I have a working PS2, but I just don't hook it up anymore because there's so much back comp now. You can play anything now, just back comp. So I'm like, what's the point in owning all of these if I can just have them in a digital library? And I do see the point. It's nice to have a physical copy of something. It is.
Especially when you have that physical copy. Like I have a couple of those games that are worth like, you know, $150 now for PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And I feel so accomplished because it's just sitting there collecting dust on my shelf.
I've heard, you know, it was funny because I watched the Terminator back in October and I had my parents' DVD of it on the stand in there. This pertains to our conversation. And Craig came in and was like, DVD of the Terminator. Craig was like, I'd rather like sit on a pine cone than put in a DVD or whatever. And you know, I do get that because it's not like I buy a ton of DVDs anymore, but I do buy some DVDs of movies. I end up with some terrible ones just because Lucas and I are messing around. But like when I go and buy like a DVD, it's always of like a movie I really enjoyed. And I think that's because I don't want to have to chase it around the streaming services. And I also think it's interesting that like streaming services will just edit movies now. They'll just edit scenes out of it. Like I watched Avatar on Amazon and they took out the whole like scene where they connect each other's tails together. And it's like the Avatar sex scene. On Amazon, that scene is like, it's either on Amazon or it's on Disney Plus that I watched it. That scene's not in there. Like they took it out of the movie. They just edited it out. And I think it's on Disney Plus because I watched it there for.
They're pretty. They usually edit out stuff.
But Amazon,
to be family.
Amazon's doing it now too. And it's interesting because, you know, I'm not trying to be paranoid or whatever. Most of this stuff is not a huge deal, but I do wonder like, what is the escalation of that? If they have sole rights to this movie, the like only way you can watch the original, if you want to watch Avatar in its original freaking cut, the only way to do it is to buy the physical DVD.
Or you know what is the most atrocious of all that is every streaming service getting rid of the fucking Panty Raid SpongeBob episode.
Oh,
How that's now a lost episode. Like, are my kids
Yep.
my kids are gonna ask me,
Yep.
what was this episode, the SpongeBob episode? And it's gonna be like literally like no one cared that
Yeah.
much about
You're gonna
this.
miss the panty raid.
Yeah.
I ran into that with I was watching the Boondocks on HBO Max, and there's a season 3 episode, season 3 or season 4 or whatever, and they cut it out. That episode is lost now unless you have a physical copy of it, because it's Boondocks goes very over the top sometimes with
That's like how the nature of the show is.
That's
though.
what
it's
the-
meant to be.
That's what the point is. It's a black creator making a show doing commentary on racism. So like the N-word gets said like a lot in that show, and they do racial commentary, and especially the one character, Uncle Ruckus, is like basically he's a black guy, but he's a white supremacist character, and so he says some really like fucked up shit. But it's black writers, it's black voice actors, and there's one episode where you can watch it on YouTube, but you have to watch it in like 5-minute snippets so they didn't get copywritten or whatever. But I thought it was interesting because there's so much insulting stuff in that show. There's so many episodes that are not sensitive at all. And this one particular episode gets singled out and taken off the air. And I just find that interesting because I'm like, man, the company could turn around and just take this whole freaking show off the air for being offensive.
I get it to an extent, but like some forms of media are a time picture of the time period they existed in too. And I know that's like a big debate. Like, do you get rid of it if it's like insensitive now? But it like this is the time period it was made in, and so it creates this like, man, I wish they wouldn't get rid of this like episode that I thought was funny.
Yeah.
That's what I like doing on Disney Plus is I find the old like Disney cartoons that I know have racist stuff in them.
Yeah.
One, because it's kind of funny, just point the finger and be like, but also Disney Plus edits them. So it's kind of interesting to see how they get around it and like change stuff.
And I guess my take on that is, so you were talking about, Lucas, the difference between censoring something to make it more timely, right? Or keeping it in its original state. And I think the answer to that, like with most things, is that it's complicated, and there's
Like it's a case by case basis.
and there's a
usually.
balance
Yeah.
that needs to be reached with each different case. Who do I want trying those cases? The last people I want is like a bunch of suits, in the studio being like, well, a lot of people make fun of that little Avatar scene where they have sex with their hair or whatever. Let's take that out of the movie, even though James Cameron made the fucking movie and put that scene in there, because even if it was silly or whatever, he didn't think it was silly. He thought, this is part of my...
It's love.
Yeah, this is part of my project. It's an anti-war, pro-love, pro-nature movie. 2 characters have fuck in it. Like, and it's a Disney movie, so I can't have vaginal penetration. So I did this little hair thing with their tentacles. And yes, it is silly, I guess, if you're a 12-year-old boy watching it and be like, but
Oh my God.
it's like, it's no sillier than anything else in that movie. There's a scene where a mech robot pulls out a giant knife.
You know what I'm surprised
That's
hasn't
silly.
been touched yet? I just rewatched Kick-Ass the other day.
Oh, yeah.
1 and 2. There is some like harsh ass language
yeah.
in that, and like a lot of violence. I'm surprised that's
A
I know
little
this-
kid murdering people with guns.
Yeah,
too.
she like walks in, drops some like C words, drops some,
Mm-hmm.
the R word that's not socially acceptable
Yeah.
now, and I'm just like, man, like this movie is like it's really funny, and I like Kick-Ass a lot, but I'm like, I could see where I'm like, man, I'm surprised this movie hasn't been like targeted yet.
That movie hasn't, but the SpongeBob episode has.
Yeah,
Right. And that's what I mean is this stuff it all comes off as very arbitrary and very like, because these people who like it's like the marketing department is in charge of it, and the marketing department or the PR department is always going to be fucking spineless and is very rarely going to take a stand on behalf of the artists. They're not the people that are going to do it. There are certain executives that might do that, but the people in the PR department, other people up top aren't going to hear about the Panty Raid episode, and they don't care.
And even no one was asking anything about that episode. Even like TikTok, which is like the most sensitive place on the internet, where like nobody, like we don't care about this episode. Like nobody asked for it to be censored, and they want to get in front of something, I guess. And but it's like, it's so like, that's not to get too deep in the episode, but that episode is so detached from any sort of actual, whatever you'd call it, malice, that like no one is making a connection being like, oh, you know.
It's like, it's,
I didn't watch that episode of SpongeBob and then think, me and my friends should break into someone's house and steal their underwear.
well, they even brought it back around to like the little thing is like, Eugene, what are you doing with my bloomers? Like it was his mom's house, and he's like, okay, go to your room.
It's a funny punchline. Like,
yeah, well, that's what even like Kick-Ass like that. Like I'd be, if they announced tomorrow, like, oh, all new edits of Kick-Ass are gonna be 15 minutes shorter, I'd be like, come on, that movie was funny.
Yeah, it was
good. Yeah. But I mean,
so that is my one argument for owning digital media. They haven't done that with video games, as far as I can tell. But
Editing stuff out.
Yeah, like going in and just taking shit out of it.
It depends. I mean, I know a famous one is like San Andreas with the hot coffee. I mean, that's something that wasn't supposed to be in the game.
That's a little different, though.
But like, what's weird about that too is they had this hot coffee, and it was this very rudimentary, just like, you know, Carl's just humping, and they both like have their clothes on. It's supposed to be like a sex scene in the game, but now you can play like The Witcher 3. You can play like, you know, name any other game, and they have like full on like sex scenes in these games, like. Even that Tormented Souls I brought up again, there was a full frontal nudity scene first 30 seconds of the game.
Well, most of the time too, with the nature of games now, you can update stuff. So it's either you don't play this game and buy it not connected to the internet, or you play it connected to the internet and we update it regardless of what you say. So stuff like, I mean, I've seen like trace things of like, hey, this line's a little insensitive, or I forget, it might have been like one of the zombies maps, like there was like the Quran or something was in there, and people were offended because you could step on the Quran, so they edited it out. So like stuff like that, but it's all pretty inconsequential, and you know, it's
the early 2000s. I think were like one of the craziest eras for that. Where like they were like no violence, no sex, no nothing. There was a Tony Hawk game. I don't remember which one, but I used to play all the Tony Hawk games, and you could go up this one ramp in one city. And if you looked in the window, there was a person on a gurney, and they had like a bloody sheet over them, and they said that was too violent, and they put up you can still see it if you do the boundary break, whatever, where you go out of bounds.
Well,
but they blocked it out with like, and
the good thing is they cracked down on all that stuff in video games, and school shootings stopped completely.
Yeah. If they're violent, they make you violent.
Yeah, that's
we stopped.
It's just like when they raised the drinking age to 21, all that underage car crashes with drunk driving stopped, right?
And you know what else helped? We focused on mental health. We focused on it.
Right. Yes.
And by focusing on mental health, everything worked out.
We were like, you know, it's okay to be sad.
Yeah, it's a good thing we didn't pass any legislation either, because that just would have been like way too much.
Yeah, too much.
Just mental health, and that's it.
No more rock music, and no more video games, and no more Quentin Tarantino movies. Because if your kid watches
too much feet, you might get into feet.
Yeah, if your kid watches Django Unchained, he might.
I'd rather my kid be antisocial than into feet. I'm just kidding. We love you, feet lovers. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, let's take it back to a lighter note here. What games is anyone playing right now?
I've recently, when I had COVID, beat the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Did you beat COVID?
You said that was good.
Yeah, it was a game I think it surprised a lot of people.
Is it the same publisher, or is it the same people that made the Avengers game?
Yeah,
that flopped real
Marvel
hard?
is the company. They own like both.
Yeah, I know about Marvel, but
Disney owns all of them. No,
Yeah.
it's Eidos, I don't know a lot about the relationships between them and like Square and stuff. I don't think it's the same team because this was pretty recently after that game came out. I feel like, give or take a few years, but it's much more in line with Spider-Man because it has the same photo mode actually, where you like can add comic frames, which I love. I think that shit's so cool. But it's linear, which I appreciate now. There was a very clear effort to, like, they wanted to represent like the music moments of like, the juxtaposition of like goofy action,
awesome
and music.
mixtape.
Yeah, and they got all this licensed music. They had to have spent like half the budget on licensed music. Like it was fucking crazy. And you had these really awesome moments. Like there's like these huddles where I think in the second movie there's like this huddle scene where you like meet up and you give like your team a pep talk, and then it'll like cut. And then there'll be like this song playing, and it's such a cool, exciting moment.
Yeah. I feel like if there was any MCU movie that Lucas could watch and not hate, it would be one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
I watched the first 3 minutes where he puts in the tape and it does the dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun,
He's dancing
dun,
around, kicking the little
dun.
alien guys.
And then I didn't finish it beyond there. I tried watching Endgame, and I made.
Well, why
it
the
about,
fuck would you do that?
Let me start with Endgame.
Let me tell you my complaint. It's because I know everything that happens already from everyone talking about it all the time.
Well, I mean, I get that. I mean, I'm not the biggest MCU head in the world, but I'm just saying, like,
you can't start with that one.
Yeah.
Because
I can't start with any of them because I already know the story of all of them, having never watched any of them.
Well,
you don't know. There's a lot of stuff in like those individual movies. Like
Endgame is part 2 of like 2 movies. Also.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it was Infinity War that I started watching.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I was like, I'm just gonna like skip, like cut to the chase. I already know everyone's stories. I've already heard everyone talk about it. I'm just gonna cut to it.
I am not attacking you over not watching Marvel movies. I'm just gonna put it this way: when I went and saw Infinity War in the theater, there was a couple sitting next to me, and the girl was like, the girl was in there, and at the beginning of the movie, Iron Man is like, I need to call Steve Rogers. And this girl leaned over to her boyfriend, unironically, and was like, who's Steve Rogers? And I just thought, if you don't know who the fuck that is, you are in for a wild ride.
I'm gonna potentially show my ignorance. That's Captain America.
Yes,
right?
it
Okay.
is, yeah.
See, I at least know some stuff.
Yeah, but I was like...
more than that girl who saw the movie.
She clearly just got dragged there by her boyfriend, and she like had no idea what was going on the whole movie. I was like, why did you bring her to this? Like,
see, in my head, he has a flat brim hat with the sticker still on it. He goes, you want to hit my vape?
nah, he was a more traditionally nerdy looking guy. So,
Yeah, but I don't remember what the original question was. Oh, with Guardians.
Games.
Yeah,
games.
yeah. Guardians is really cool. It has a really cool story. Good writing. Dialogue can be kind of annoying, and it's cool costumes. It's got a lot of cool stuff. So if it's usually on sale, I definitely recommend checking it out.
Does it have the chick with the big hands? Who was in Avengers? Who was the chick with the big hands?
I don't know what you're talking about, but
hold on.
The chick with the big hands.
Yeah, who do you play as in the Avengers game?
Oh, you're talking about Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel, yeah. No,
That's it. She's not a Guardian. Come on, man.
I don't know.
I thought you meant the movies. If you Google Avengers big hands, you're gonna get a lot of fetish porn.
Yeah.
Oh, no, who's that girl?
That's Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
Is it?
She's like an Elastigirl, yeah.
Ah, never knew that. Just learned that today.
She's not in any of the movies.
She's in the Avengers game though. I know.
She's in the much better Lego Marvel Superheroes 1 and 2 video games.
I want you to know I
which are
have
dope.
actually played that.
Those
I played
are-
the Lego
Those are
games.
really good.
Yeah, I just they were fun Lego games.
Yeah.
I like the first one better than the second, but the second one's
Agreed.
still pretty cool.
Agreed. Yeah.
But other than that, I'm trying to focus on games now because I'll start like 10 at once and I forget how to play them. I've been playing the Saboteur, which is a cool game from it was Pandemic Studios' last game, which was I think a super important game studio from our childhood. They made Battlefront Mercenaries and stuff.
Did the pandemic take out?
Watch those wrist rockets.
Hilarious. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but you would love that game, Lucas, because you play as the whole premise is you're fighting against the Nazis in Paris
hate
during World
those
War
guys.
II. Yeah, and you play as this Irish dude. He's this Irish racer.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, the guy's trying to convince him to fight with the French, I guess not revolutionists, but like the French
Resistance.
resistance. Yeah, and he said something like, "So you're telling me that your morals only start they stop with the border of a country or something, or the borders on a map," and the guy's like, "Yeah, map of Ireland." And I was like, dude, if Lucas heard this, he would fucking love this game.
So I
And there's titties in the first second.
first second.
Yes.
Is that a record that like Guinness? Do they keep track of that?
The first thing you see are titties. And I was like, okay.
I'm sold.
So
To speak of the Irish characters that I love, I finally convinced Katie to play Borderlands with me. We went back. Borderlands 1 was rough, but we played Borderlands 2, which is like, I don't know if you guys ever got into Borderlands like I did, but Borderlands 2 is like perfect, like gaming. Like, I don't even know how to describe it because it's like a shooter, but they call it that
fun.
looter shooter. Yeah, I'll just sum it up with it's fun. It's a really good game. It has really good story. Has really good like RPG elements for being a shooter. And then we moved on to Borderlands 3, which I have been putting off because I refuse to play a Borderlands game unless someone will play it with me. Because you're meant to play it like 2 to 4
wait, who am I?
times.
Dude, you're the Borderlands guy.
Oh my god! But here he holds up 3 in the third one.
Nice.
But I love those games, and the character in that. Whenever Katie chooses a character in a game, we have to watch 5 fucking hours of just like, guides on which character is right for you in this game.
Yeah.
Here's the 4 characters. Here's their classes. Here's everything that's
Just
ever
gotta jump
existed
into
about
it,
them.
man.
But they have in that game an assassin named Zane, and he is Irish, and he sounds like Conor McGregor just voiced him. And I was like, the second I got introduced to him, I'm like, that's my character right there.
How the
You
Borderlands.
gotta pick the character who's just cool. Like, there's so many different play styles with games that like aesthetic is like the coolest thing or the most important thing whenever you're trying to pick somebody.
Did you guys ever play any Borderlands at all?
I was not a Borderlands guy.
You have abilities in that game too, where like Zane, for example, can throw out. He has 3 abilities in the game where he can throw out a shield, and it's a shield.
The weather
that's-
changes with his mood.
Yeah, and he wears a ring that tells his mood.
One's super strong. I watched Encanto today, so
I have never seen that.
keep going.
Some
But like
cringy
he has
shit,
3
Disney.
abilities where he can like throw out a shield and you can pick up that shield, but you can also create a clone of yourself and then switch places with your clone at any time. And then you can also send out like a sentinel, like a drone from your arm that will like go out and shoot people. So it was like super complex character, but each character has like different, like this big tree of abilities, which is kind of the fun point of the game. And I forget what my original point I was getting at too was. But yeah, play Borderlands 3.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, if you want something like a game you can sit down with significant other and it's not too hard. Like if Katie can play it, anyone can play it. She's really bad at any shit.
No,
games.
come on. Katie's a good.
She's been doing really, really good.
Alyssa is actually out there right now playing Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
She's still working on it. She's playing her way through it, and
Did I ever tell you I really like the Resident Evil games?
yes. And I got her Pikmin 3 Deluxe for the Switch, so she was playing that some as well.
Oh, I bought Katie Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Dude, that game rules.
She spent like 200 hours in that game.
Yeah, she's gonna love it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she finally
she already has
finally
started.
beat the story, but I got her this. I'm like, she'll like play it for like 5 minutes and do her usual like, I don't like this game, like it's too hard. She spent like 200 hours like perfecting that game, and it was I sat on the couch like half asleep, half awake for all 200 hours like watching. Really, I've never played a Legend of Zelda game or watched one before
It's a super in-depth one. Yeah.
What are you playing?
Big
right now,
open
Matt?
world. Oh,
Halo Infinite.
you'll hate me.
KOTOR.
Yeah, it's not Halo Infinite. It's, I've actually am playing Knights of the Old Republic 2 right now. For like the 100th time. Got my Darth Nihilus figure here. He has trouble standing up. He's got a walk with a pimp limp here. But yeah.
I did see, speaking of, I'll show you real
I'm on
quick.
my 100th playthrough of KOTOR 2, but the thing is, here's the deal. I take more time between my KOTOR 1 playthroughs because but KOTOR 2, that game has so much variability in it. There's so
Did they
much
remaster those, or is that coming out still?
So it's supposed to get a remaster like the first one is getting one.
Who made that? Is that Bethesda?
So so actually BioWare made the first one.
Who owns BioWare now?
It was like a
EA.
yeah, it
Do
was
they?
it was like
Who
a
owns EA?
it was like a Bethesda game, wasn't it? I think the first one was, but the second one is Obsidian.
Oh yeah, so the Obsidian I think is formed by people that were part of like that team, I believe.
Obsidian is ZeniMax.
So it was
who is Bethesda.
It was a different writer.
I did want to
'cause
show you.
Chris Avalon and Obsidian wrote KOTOR 2, and KOTOR 2 is like, even as an unfinished game that was rushed out to production, like, is probably the best Star Wars video game ever made, I will say. And I dare say KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 may be the best and is definitely my favorite Star Wars thing, period.
Nerd.
Better than the movies, in my opinion.
Got this, Lucas.
Yeah.
Nerd.
I want
That's
to
all I'm
show
gonna
you,
put out
Matt.
there.
I do have. I saw this the other day. This Darth Nihilus.
Oh,
tattoo.
Darth Nihilus tat.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of sick.
That is sick. He's hot, you know. Kreia would tell you that's not sick. She'd tell you that he's barely a man anymore.
Yeah. Think he's the bad guy of the game? I like looking at a lot of these.
Got the big red lightsaber. He's actually not the spoilers. He's not the final boss. He's actually the second boss, but he is marketed for most of the game. He's the big baddie. It's sort of one of those things where you get a bad guy, and then you get the second bad guy, and then there's a little twisty loo.
There's
and
a hidden bad
and there's
guy.
a third bad guy. Yep. So
Well, thanks for telling me before I play the game.
listen, that game came out like 2005.
I own it on PC.
Did you finish Harry Potter yet?
I am halfway through the Deathly Hollows Part 1. Funny enough, I looked everywhere. I can't find the book version of Deathly Hollows Part 2.
That's fun. So
I
just
mean, I
wanna-
have it if you want to borrow it.
I want to say this is really funny because we, God damn it, I just got that joke. that went right over my head.
I was like,
What joke?
So we had never talked about Harry Potter before, and I swear to God, there was like a time where like Lucas and I binged all the movies because they were on streaming services, and it's COVID, so like what else are you fucking doing except consuming TV, you disgusting little hog. So we watched like the Harry Potter movies, and we were like talking about them. And Craig was like, guys, I actually just started reading the books, and I don't know like the spoilers or anything in Harry Potter. And Lucas and I are like, you don't fucking know like the spoilers in Harry Potter? It's like, you don't know that this happens and this happens. And we didn't say anything, but you were like, we were acting all offended, and you brought up
2011, the last film was released. So 10 years at least.
it is kind of crazy that Craig didn't know.
because I just randomly had a compulsion to read them like out of nowhere, and
But-
of course the fucking as soon as I start reading them, that's when they've never talked about Harry Potter before, and I was like, are you shitting me?
Craig had the great point where he's like, you guys have never mentioned this stuff ever before. Like, can you just wait till I am finished? Harry Potter.
Yeah, but I'm halfway through. I'm going to Universal in about a week.
Yes, you
And
gotta know.
Yeah, because I mean I've obviously been there before, but I'll have additional context. I haven't seen the movies beyond the fourth one, but book's obviously going to give more detail.
Did you get to the part in Deathly Hallows where Dobby kills Harry?
Yeah, that was my
I
favorite
was like,
part.
what's the fakest sounding thing?
That's my favorite part. I mean, I feel like I know a lot of like the twists that happen, but I'm still enjoying the ride.
Where are you
And,
at? Like, what part?
I'm at pretty much the exact midpoint.
Have they
where-
destroyed
Well,
a Horcrux?
where Ron he like comes back and he helps him get the sword out of
Okay.
the thing.
Yep.
That's like the last chapter I just read.
Dickhead. We were both
He says, "I was a git." I'm using a lot of British slang now. I'm like,
I was a right git.
having a row. I like that one. I like translating, but I'm interested to read more about it because apparently there are a lot of localization differences because they speak almost a different language over there.
Yeah.
And I want to maybe watch, because Universal's third park, which is going to open in 2035, are having a Fantastic Beasts area, and I got to watch those movies to know what's going on.
If if you are a fan of ours and live in the United Kingdom, please leave a comment down below calling us right gits or what. Use whatever slang you want.
Hoi, bro.
Because I'm interested. I imagine most of our viewers are probably like in the United States or Canada or whatever. But you guys, United Kingdom boys or gals, leave us a comment.
You know, your boy over here, not the original first edition that was printed in the UK, but I have an American first edition of the Sorcerer's Stone.
I was gonna say,
Are you sure? Because they all say first edition.
you need the
Now,
Philosopher's
I like
Stone.
verified my numbers and everything with it. It's not like it's worth that much, really. The like UK edition is worth a lot, but the American like first print isn't worth that much. But I have a legitimate first
I
print.
can't get it.
Might be worth something. Back over there, they call it the Philosopher's Stone. Little
Yes.
piece of trivia
Yep.
for my Harry Potter heads out there.
A Philosopher's Stone.
Harry Potter.
I think it's because his feet won't like bend. His feet
Yo,
don't, like
hit him up with Quentin Tarantino.
Right, yeah. Quentin will get him, right?
I wanted to talk about this because I watched a video. I like Donut Media. It's another YouTube channel.
You want to talk about Knights of the Old Republic 2 for 5 hours?
Well, that's all we have the time for today.
I'm telling you, Matt, you got to do a video essay on KOTOR. I feel like you
There
would.
are so many good like channels about it. I do have so much to say. I should just do like a little essay about it because every
what you
time I
get.
play it, I discover some new stuff, and I feel like I do have some great tips and tricks that could be good for veterans and beginners. I have played the game a lot, so it's a good game.
My first YouTube attempt was called The Elder Historian, and I was like, I'm gonna read every book in the Elder Scrolls series and like talk about like the different history of the entire world, not knowing that like 10,000 people have already done this. I was back when I was like, you know, whatever, 10 years, 12 years ago.
Hey, you may have heard of a project I work on. I'm actually the cameraman. It's called GB ASMR. You may have heard of it.
You work with Amaranth? Or?
No, I'm working up to that, you know.
So I want to talk about some movies here.
Okay.
The Fast and Furious movies.
Oh,
Donut Media put out a video the other day where they talked about the cheesiest lines from those movies. And I feel like I remember I saw like Fast 5 in the theaters. I've seen like Tokyo Drift I liked for a long time. There's so many movies in this. I've never really, I think, sat down and watched the ones that had The Rock in it. But
actually Hobbs.
whatever his name is. I know they did that like Hobbs and Shaw or whatever spinoff.
Yeah.
But I tried to watch the first one not too long ago. It is such a like picture of the early 2000s. Like I'm into cars and stuff, dude. The cars in that movie are just stupid. The lingo is stupid.
Somehow the second one is more dated than the first one.
Yeah.
Somehow. If you've watched the second one,
Not in a long time.
Ludacris shows up in the second one with like an afro and like a comb in it. It's like, and he's like, I'm a computer hacker extraordinaire. Get the fuck out of here.
The second one is the one with the line I wanted to bring up where Paul Walker someone says something to him and he goes, "Forget it, cuh."
Forget about it, cuh. Yeah.
Cringiest line
Want to hear about this, homie? I said, forget about it, cuz.
of like that. And in the first movie where he's just like, "Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should."
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should.
This whole movie, like the whole series, great series. I love the movies, don't get me wrong. Just a collection of cringy one-liners, one
yeah.
after another.
It's kind of amazing those films have gone on for as long as they did, because I feel like you have the first three being Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, and Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which has none of the main characters in it. And then they took a hiatus for a little bit, and now you have instead of calling it Fast and Furious 4, it's called The Fast and the Furious, I'm pretty sure. And that brought like all of the main cast back together for another adventure. Then there was Fast 5. So like 4, 5, 6, and 7 all built on like another arc that was like those movies became action adventure movies. They basically became Marvel movies, except instead of superpowers, they have their cars.
Yeah, when they're like
once-
jumping cars, building to building,
Yeah.
you're just like,
Like
what?
once Vin Diesel gets in his car, like he's invincible, you know, and he can do anything in it. I think they take out a tank in Fast and Furious 6 or whatever. And then the most recent ones, 8 and 9, are like a news story. And I saw 8. I don't remember a ton of it. And I did not see 9, I don't think. And Hobbs and Shaw was just a little like offshoot one. More in the vein, I think, of the 4 through 7 era of them. They should have ended with 7. They should have ended with 7 because that was like arguably the best one, I thought. And it had the best ending in that they were doing one last ride, and that was the film Paul Walker freaking died during. And
Did he die during the filming or was it after?
he died during the filming because they had to fill in some of his scenes with like they
His
had
brother
his
or
brother,
something.
and then
Yeah.
they put CGI over his brother to like be Paul Walker. And the movie ends with, I mean, we've all seen that Charlie Puth, Wiz Khalifa, "When I See You Again," and Vin Diesel and Paul are riding together, and then, you know, Vin Diesel takes the exit and Paul takes the other exit, and he starts driving, and he drives and the camera like pans off into heaven, and it's like, "When I see you again." Whoa.
All the meatheads are like crying.
Oh,
First time I ever felt emotion.
I went to see Fast 5 in the theaters.
I'm not
and
gonna lie, that is an emotional scene when you watch it, and I'll
It's too much
admit,
of a meme
you know.
for me to actually like.
Well, this was before it became a meme. Like I saw it in theaters, and I was like, "Damn, dude, that's sad," you know.
Damn, who knew?
And now it is like the "When I See You Again" is such a meme now that you know you can't. But that is the picture perfect ending for the series. Like, not if you're Paul Walker, but like that's the part to end it on. Your main character died, but you had enough footage that you could finish this one. Just close it out. Just be done. And then they're like, "Guess what? We're coming back with Fast 8." It's like
Yeah.
they really will not let a franchise die these days until it stops making money. Like they just won't. They just got to keep. Yeah. It's like they recently announced like Squid Game. They're like, "Get ready for the whole Squid Game cinematic universe." It's like,
just let it be.
can't we just have one thing where it was like, yes, this was like 10 episodes.
Did you watch it?
I did, yeah.
That's like the next thing that like people wouldn't stop talking about so much that I was like, I don't even want to watch it.
Yeah, Alyssa and I watched it, and we both really liked it, and then it ends on like kind of a cliffhanger, implying there's going to be a sequel, and that was the worst part of the show.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Netflix made them add that scene in because it was really out of place and
Yeah.
didn't really make sense. Lucas, I was like that too, but then I watched and I really liked it still. So I
know
would
like
just
every
nut up
part of
and-
it already, just from people talking about it though. Like I know every challenge they're gonna do. I know who lives just from overhearing people talk about it. Whenever people do that to the extent where I know everyone who's gonna die, everyone who's gonna like pass, what challenges they're doing, what's the point of me watching it?
I don't know. I would argue
It's a spectacle.
I'm not arguing for you to watch Squid Game. I am going to argue the merit of what you just said and say I think it is worth it even if you know how something ends to like experience the story, cuz I don't know, just because you know how something ends doesn't necessarily mean unless
I'm sure
it's
I
like
would probably enjoy it. Honestly.
unless it's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie where the whole damn thing is based on a twist.
yeah.
I think it's still like worth an experience to watch the story or whatever.
But to answer your initial question about Fast and Furious, I don't think you even asked it, but I will say I've never watched Fast and Furious anything. I do not like cars, but my relationship with the franchise extends to the Universal Studios attraction, Fast and Furious Supercharged, which Lucas, you have to look up a ride through of that. It's for Universal, who's basically right behind Disney, is like the top dog in theme parks. It's one of the worst rides in the world. Like, there's a history I won't bother going into right now. Maybe off camera I'll explain. It's worth just watching because it's like, it's insane. Like, you're just watching basically like a video game. There's one point where Vin Diesel jumps off his car and hangs on to the bottom of a helicopter, but to make him fit on the screen, the helicopter is like an RC chopper, and he's like as big as the helicopter, and he's like spinning around. You have to look it up. It is like horrible.
That's
like
incredible.
And I'm gonna watch it. I've never actually like been in it, but I can't wait to ride it.
You need to watch the Fast and Furious movies.
So-
you need to just embrace.
Craig-
I think I can die
the
without
cringe.
being there.
I don't think you would really care for the first three because the first three are really made for like I mean, you can watch them as a general audience, but they are really made with like a street race aesthetic to it.
A fake street race. They just make up so much shit that does not. That's why, like,
They're made for
in the car culture. They've been a meme for so long because they just make up terms and stuff that don't actually exist.
Sure, but I don't think you can deny car people go and see those movies.
Oh,
there's car porn. You know? Like
what's
that's what it
crazy about
is.
those movies is there's something called the tuner culture, which is where you buy like, you know, like a Mitsubishi Eclipse, like a Honda, like my SRT that I have, and you like tune it up and you make it look ridiculous. That founded pretty much an entire tuning culture. Like that movie inspired so many people to buy project cars. Like it's looked at as one of like the founding fathers of like the tuning culture of cars. It's crazy.
I swear that movie was a cultural milestone, and all the first Fast and Furious movie is it's Point Break, but with street racing instead of surfing. I don't know if you've ever seen Point Break.
You could have any beer you want as long as it's the Corona.
Oh yeah, and the whole thing is just one long. All the movies are one long like commercial for Corona. Honestly, my favorite one probably.
I like Tokyo Drift.
Is Tokyo Drift?
Yeah, the one with none of the main
characters, because it just has so many good, memorable character moments in it. Like,
spoiler: when that one guy
DK.
like flips his car and dies,
it
was sad.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I like that guy.
And then they like resurrect him in the timeline. It's like, oh, he might still be alive, and that kind of shit. Just like that will be the death of like art. Storytelling as an art form, like that kind of shit where it's like
Fast and Furious was artful before that happened.
Watch it.
Good point.
The funniest thing is their outfits in the first movie are so like early 2000s too. But I remember I went to see like the last one I saw.
Michelle Rodriguez walking up. These two girls are flirting with Vin Diesel. Michelle Rodriguez walks up and she goes, "I smell skanks."
She always has that disgusted look on her face the whole movie. Like she's like she's the tough chick.
She's the tough chick, yeah.
But the last one I saw in the theaters was Fast 5. I went to this like shitty theater. It was me and my brother.
So you have seen one with The Rock in it.
Yeah, I think he was in that one.
He's in Fast 5.
But we left and we're getting in our car to go home. And just the entire parking lot was all these shitty cars just ring, ring. Just some guy tries to do a burnout, slams into the curb.
It's very much
someone blows out like their head gasket trying to rev up in the parking lot.
Yeah, Fast and Furious is like to car guys. I feel like what John Wick is to gun people.
Yeah,
like gun guys love John Wick because it's like it's gun porn. It's like Keanu Reeves holding a souped up H&K, and guys are just like, "Oh my fucking god, dude, look at him!" Oh yeah,
I know what that is. And like some guy's telling his girlfriend, "That's an H&K." It's an H&K.
And then he's just going through, and he's just
texting her other boyfriend. She's like, "Watch this dumbass movie."
Killing gangsters by like the dozens. He's just like he's doing cool shit with these like tactical reload, and guys are like, "Oh my god, he did a reload, dude! He did a reload." Like, hey, don't get me wrong, I do like the John Wick movies.
He actually learned how to do that, which is because there's a lot of behind the scenes things where Keanu actually learned how to do all of that stuff.
Yeah,
which
he
is pretty
knows
cool.
he knows a lot of martial arts and like 3-gun stuff. So, and he did the Terran Tactical stuff, I know, to get ready for those movies.
Such a nice guy in real life.
Those movies are actually made by the directors of those movies are like stunt guys, and one of them is the stunt guy that played Neo in the Matrix movies. Like he was his stunt double in
Did you
those
see
movies.
the new Matrix?
I did see the new Matrix.
Was it
I
a
was gonna
letdown?
segue. It was not. So here's the deal. I'm gonna tell it to you like it is. This movie is got a lot of mixed reviews, and I totally see why. I don't even know where to scratch the surface on this fucking movie because you guys haven't even seen it.
I feel like that was the perfect reaction people would want, is a bunch of mixed reviews rather than just all positive.
It was mixed reviews because this movie was supposed to be a soft reboot, and the movie is basically an anti-soft reboot. The movie is like Lana Wachowski being like, it fourth wall breaks at the beginning of the movie. Like,
Deadpool's in it.
I really can't even go into it without just getting into spoilers. I will say this. I completely understand why some people hate this movie. I totally get it because it's like not a Matrix movie, basically.
That's the only reviews I've gotten from it so far. Some are like, it sucks.
And I can see why people would watch it and be like, this sucks. That movie, it is the best Matrix sequel, period. It's a great movie. I loved it. I loved it because she was clearly commissioned to make a soft reboot. She makes it clear in the movie. They literally drop it at one point. The movie starts out that like Neo is trapped in a new version of the Matrix, basically. And they have convinced him that the events of the first three Matrixes are a video game that he has created. And this is still fairly early on in the movie, so this is spoilers, but you're entering spoiler territory.
Spoiler wall.
Yeah. I'll try not to drop any big ones, but basically he's been tricked into thinking that he may, and you don't really know for like the first act of the movie whether or not the Matrix happened or not, but there's a bunch of scenes where he gets commissioned to make a Matrix 4, which he vowed he'd never make. And so like the first three games are like these award-winning video games or whatever. Like he got Game of the Year for Matrix 1 or whatever. And they're in the meeting room and they go, the executive of the game company calls him in. He's like, Mr. Anderson, we're going to have to make Matrix 4. I said I would never make that. Well, our
Looks
parent,
at the camera.
and he goes, our parent company, Warner Brothers, said they are either going to make it with or without us. So it's up to you. If you dip out, it's going to cut the contract and they're just going to make it without you.
Looks at the camera.
The whole thing is just like looking at the camera, and then they're in the fucking boardroom and he's listening to his dim-witted coworkers try to give him like ideas on what it should be. And it's basically, those dim-witted coworkers are you and me, craving the little slop that we've been fed since Force Awakens, where they go, all right, so here's the deal. What made the Matrix great the first time? Guns, explosions, slow motion. You know, what's the Matrix about? Is it about transgender paradigm? Is it about, Marxism? Like what? And it's like, oh my fucking God, this movie is just this director talking about like not wanting to make this movie. I won't spoil anything because that is just scratching the surface on what happens in the movie. But there is a real plot that moves through it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it because I expected to sit down and get Force Awakens, The Matrix, which is what we've been getting out of Hollywood for the last fucking 10 years now, is like, it's the Terminator again, but slightly different. This was like the Matrix soft reboot. Go fuck yourself. This is a different movie. And I really enjoyed it. I do understand why people despise it, and that's okay. I really enjoyed it. I think you should check it out if you're anybody. So,
the only thing I'm looking forward to is probably the series that has really just shaped America. It's really just meant a lot to a lot of people. Jackass Forever.
Yep.
It's coming out, I think, like early February or something, and I'm gonna convince you guys to go see it with me.
Yeah, dude, you don't need to convince me. I'm down.
What a stupid series that has just, I know I've even talked about it on this before, that has just
Jackass is one of those series. I saw someone tweet this. They said, like, Jackass, I'm convinced, would be famous even if it came out in the time of silent movies.
Yeah.
Because it's a human, like, experience to just laugh at a person getting hurt. You know, like,
And they take it to the, apparently, like, I follow Steve-O and stuff, and I met him.
yeah.
But I follow them, and they, like, every movie they would come out with, it was just like, how much more can we injure and or like,
Yeah.
you know, make lasting injuries and like hurt ourselves. And apparently this fourth movie, because you're like, a lot of them are reaching like 40s. I think Knoxville is even like, it might be 50.
He's an old man, dude.
You're like, oh man, there's no, like, you think of your like parents at this point. You're like, oh, there's no way. Apparently this fourth movie is like to the extreme is what I've heard. So I mean,
From the marketing.
yeah. The guy who told me to buy a ticket to go see it has told me that it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for that. That and King of the Hill just got renewed.
Really?
I get that there's been talks of that forever, but apparently Paramount Plus is going to be, I think I mentioned it before, Beavis and Butthead is getting a new season, which how's that going to fit into 2022?
We've all been waiting for.
Yeah. King of the Hill is going to get a new, I think King of the Hill will probably have a, I love Beavis and Butthead, but King of the Hill would probably have a better return
Yeah.
than Beavis and Butthead would, especially with just how culture is today. And we got a Birdemic 3. If you know, you know. Okay. I am friends with Alan Baugh. Starred in Birdemic 1, made with a budget of $10,000. It's down as one of those cult movies. One of the, like, it's classified as like one of the worst movies ever made that got a cult classic. Really good. Birdemic 1, then Birdemic 2. Everyone was like, there's no way Birdemic 2 is going to come out. And it did. And then Alan announced, and then the director for who did the first two movies said that there's going to be a Birdemic 3 this year.
Nice.
So I'm definitely going to be sure to check that out. Grab your clothes hangers. If you know, you know. Are there any other movies you guys are looking forward to this year?
Oh, so many. Just so many. No, I am really looking forward, ironically, to that horrible looking Jared Leto MCU movie called Morbius, where he turns into a vampire.
I hate it already.
Dude, the trailer looked so fucking bad. He looks into the camera with this fake ass little CGI vampire face, and it looks terrible. And I was really looking forward to it because it's supposed to come out like this weekend, like in January.
Oh,
and
I'll be sure to go see it.
they pushed it back.
It counts my vacation.
They
to go
pushed
see
it.
Morbius.
They pushed it back to, no joke, April 1st. So, like, just telegraphing it to you that, like,
You show up and it's just a guy farting into a camera for 2 hours.
joke's on you if you see this movie, idiot. I will be seeing it though because of how like goofy and bad it looks. So
I had
Really
a thing
looking
the other
forward to
day where I almost debated watching the new Resident Evil movie, The Welcome to Raccoon City. I bailed.
you need to
I gotta watch it with you. If
me
I
tell
watch
you,
it, it's gonna be with you.
You need to. I want to be there for you because I think you go about this with the wrong mindset. I understand being disappointed that you didn't get a good Resident Evil movie. I get that. You need to embrace what is now, though, and just be like, you know what? Let's go in and just watch this goofy shit. You know? Just
Well, I've said it before.
appreciate
If they would just fuck off and do their own storyline, it's whatever. It's that they do this like 50% trying to pull stuff from the games, 50% making shit up on the spot.
You need to not even worry about any of that. You need to go into it being like, I'm gonna go see Morbius. Going into it like, I'm gonna see a bad movie and I'm gonna get some good laughs out of it. That's how you need to go into the Resident Evil.
But you didn't
movie.
grow up liking Jared Leto. Matt, you came out of the womb. You're like, I love Jared Leto. What he was like,
Hey,
30 seconds.
I was genuinely
Uranus or something?
disappointed when Suicide Squad
That was
came out.
that David. What's his face? I swear. David
Hey,
Calipera.
you know the rule. What time are we at, Lucas? I think it's
We're a
time
little
to
over an
wrap
hour.
up.
The only thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up here is we mentioned it in the last one too, but we had some crazy circumstances that happened. And I think this time we can supposedly say that Ben Roethlisberger had his last football game
Yep.
in the playoffs of all things. we talked about, was it before or after the Cleveland game? I don't remember the last one, but we beat Cleveland, and we're like, oh, that's Ben's last game.
Yeah.
And then because they were talking about starting our backup QB Rudolph, and then he
Well, it
came
didn't
out.
look like we had a chance to make it in.
Yeah, we came out and we're like, this ridiculous plan was laid out. We're like, the Steelers have to do this, this, and this, and they can make the playoffs. And you're like, that's never gonna happen.
And then it happened.
And then it happened. We played Baltimore. We played Cleveland, beat them.
So we had to beat Baltimore. This is the last week. We had to beat Baltimore. The Colts, who were fighting for a playoff spot, had to beat like the second or third worst team in the league, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Or the Jags had to beat the Colts.
yeah, one of the worst teams in the league had to beat the Colts, who were doing really well.
And then the Chargers and Raiders game had to not end in a tie, which was really, really funny. We'll get to one at a time here. So the Steelers beat the Raiders. Big Ben did one last drive.
The Ravens.
Yeah, sorry. The Big Ben led one last drive against the Ravens.
That game went to overtime.
Yes, it
too,
went
which became
overtime.
Remember that. It'll be a common theme.
Somehow, so this was funny. I was watching the Rich Eisen podcast before that show. Don't tune into that. Watch this. And
For all your sports needs.
and Rich pointed out, he goes, Steelers fans, I want you to know, I know the odds look tough today with the Colts and the Jags, but he said, the Colts have not won a game in Jacksonville since 2014. And this game was in Jacksonville. And I was like, oh, that sounds scrumptious.
Usually those stats don't mean anything. It's just like, oh, it's a
They
coin
got
flip.
their
They were
numbers
like,
somehow.
I don't remember the exact. They were like 2-11, and the Colts
Dude.
were like 9-3 or something stupid.
So the Jags blew the doors off the Colts. They destroyed them. The Steelers-Raven game goes to overtime. And then this freaking Raiders-Charger game goes to overtime. And we're like, you got to be fucking
This game
It's the
can't
most
end in a
stressed I've
tie.
been
Yeah.
in my
No games go to overtime ever. And this game, all it can, like, the score can be anything.
The Chargers
it just can't go to a
I remember
tie.
the Chargers just kept converting on fourth downs. And I'm like, just end this game. And then they tied it up. It goes to OT. And they kick a field goal. And it's like, this game is never going to end.
And what's stressful is like, yeah, and the other thing too, I think I forgot to mention is if these two teams tie, they both get in.
Yeah.
So they don't have an incentive to really win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they have a competitive incentive, but like,
Yeah, the incentive is to keep a division rival like out.
yeah,
and
I'm like,
get
oh,
better
these guys are
seeding,
good.
too.
Yeah, these guys are good. We don't want to face them again. You know.
yeah, but like that's the idea is like, how's it gonna go? Because it's such a unique circumstance. But yeah, so it was like extra stressful.
Ended up the Raiders with 3 seconds on the clock kicked a field goal to win the game. We went to the playoffs, and listen,
That was it. Lucas, end the podcast.
well,
Hey, wait.
honestly,
Anytime you can end your season in the playoffs, like 1/3 of the teams make it to the playoffs. That's
I'm not gonna say we
Primo.
all knew. I think I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, there was hope in my heart that like the Steelers could make it like an ugly, exciting game. It was ugly. And it was only exciting if you're a Chiefs fan.
well. There was that moment. TJ Watt, like,
Oh, yeah.
he made Mahomes, whoever the running back was, fumble the ball, picked it up and run it, and Steelers were up 7, and you're like, "There's no way this is happening."
Another 3.5 quarters.
yeah.
Like that's it. End of the game.
Yeah, and then the game just went downhill from there.
The offense
didn't
had
feel-
like 5 or 6 3-and-outs in a row or something insane.
The Cleveland game and the Baltimore game, I felt that like almost like in my gut, I was like, oh man, this could be Roethlisberger's last game. I don't want him to lose this one. Once we made it to the playoffs and we were facing Kansas City, but we made it to the playoffs was the point. I was just like, I'm okay with this.
I was okay with it too. I did, because listen, I knew we weren't going to the Super Bowl, but we got one last Super Bowl song with Ben in it. There was a chance we could make an upset in the first round. It didn't happen. Guess what? Not a big deal.
Tom Brady will
I
win
watched
again.
I watched the first quarter and then put it on something else. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
well, this game's over.
Well, could have been Ben's last game, but according to Antonio Brown, Roethlisberger isn't done. So we'll see what happens.
And on that note, we'll see you and Roethlisberger at the next Steelers game.
Yep. Hey guys, you have a good evening. Thanks for tuning in. on my last note, I'm just gonna say, Happy Easter, Xbox.
My last note: stay booming.
Hey, thanks for watching. We got the Deadliest Warrior. We just did, what was that, Aztec Jaguar versus...
Zande Warrior.
You got to redo your last note now.
Oh, dang it. I have to redo.
Greg's mic died. Hey, we got Aztec Jaguar versus Zande Warrior. Just came out. We got some gameplay videos going up. Got some other stuff. If you're here from the Facebook group that I joined, welcome. You won't see this.
Happy Easter, Xbox.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Stay booming.